Imagine you buy a standard, run-of-the-mill toaster. You take it home, you decide you want it to match your kitchen, so you paint it red.
Right. Perfectly normal.
Yeah, maybe you even take it apart to tweak the heating coils.
Yeah.
No problem, right? It's yours. But now imagine you buy a 3D printer for your home, you tweak the software slightly to make it run better, and suddenly you are hit with a barrage of legal threats from the manufacturer.
It's a completely different world now.
It really is. Welcome to our deep dive today. We are unpacking a massive stack of sources for you, and the overarching theme here is that the fundamental rules of physical ownership, biology, and even time itself are being completely rewritten.
It is a phenomenal stack of information. We are looking at a huge spectrum of human achievement and, honestly, human contradictions today.
Oh, absolutely.
We're charting everything from the absolute physical limits of how we build microchips to the bizarre math probabilities that govern our daily lives, all the way to how we measure cultural dominance.
And our mission today is to sift through all of this, pull out the signal from the noise, and hand you the most mind-bending aha moments.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I want to start with the literal building blocks of our digital future.
Hardware.
Exactly. I was reading through the notes on Huawei, the Chinese tech giant, and they just announced something they're calling the Tau scaling law.
Which is a brilliant place to start. Because this is a perfect example of humanity hitting a physical wall and having to invent a new dimension to get around it.
A new dimension?
Whoa, yeah. For decades, the entire tech industry relied on shrinking transistors. The smaller you make them, the more you can cram onto a computer chip and the faster your device runs.
But I mean, you can only shrink an atom down so far.
Exactly.
And just as a quick refresher for you listening, Tau, the Greek letter, is what engineers use to measure how fast a signal can switch on and off inside one of these chips.
Right. And the faster the switch, the faster the computer.
So Huawei isn't trying to shrink the transistors anymore. They are changing the geometry entirely. Instead of laying them out flat, they're stacking them in vertical layers to physically shorten the distance those electronic signals have to travel.
And we have to look at the broader context of why they are doing this right now. Huawei was effectively banned by the U.S. from purchasing the world's most advanced chip-making machines.
Right, the ones primarily manufactured in the Netherlands.
Yes, exactly. Since they don't have access to the equipment required to keep shrinking transistors the traditional way, this Tau approach is an elegant, really a forced workaround.
I see.
By stacking components vertically, they can pack cutting-edge computing power into the exact same physical footprint. They're integrating this into their new Kirin 2026 chip, and they claim this will allow them to match the world's best chips by 2031.
It reminds me of city planning. Like if you're building a metropolis but you're completely out of land, you can't build wider roads.
Right. There's nowhere to go.
And you certainly can't make the cars any smaller than they already are. So you build a double-decker freeway. You just go vertical.
That's a great way to think about it.
But wait, if I build a multi-level freeway, all the exhaust and the heat from the traffic gets trapped in those lower levels. So does stacking all these microscopic computer components create a literal heat problem? Or is this just a neat geometric trick?
Oh, you've hit on the exact nightmare scenario for three-dimensional chip design. It's thermodynamics. Yes, it creates a massive, potentially catastrophic heat problem.
I figured as much.
When you stack transistors like a layer cake, the ones trapped in the middle layers are insulated by the silicon surrounding them. It becomes incredibly difficult to dissipate the heat they generate.
And if they overheat?
If you can't cool them, the chip literally melts, or it just fails outright. So the real innovation here isn't just the stacking, it's engineering entirely new materials and cooling architectures to pull that trapped heat out of a microscopic space.
That physical bottleneck is dictating the entire tech industry right now. I mean, it's not just the processing chips, it's the memory too.
Oh, absolutely.
I was looking at the financials for Micron, an American company that makes computer memory, and my jaw dropped. They just hit a $1 trillion valuation.
It's staggering.
Their stock tripled in 2026 alone, and it's up nearly 700% over the past year.
Because the grand software dreams of this massive AI boom are completely tethered to the physical reality of hardware availability.
Right, you can't have the software without the chips.
Exactly. All these companies rushing to build AI chatbots and large language models require data centers that consume just staggering amounts of memory. Micron manufactures DRAM, which is your computer's short-term working memory,
Okay.
and NAND flash, which handles the long-term storage. Because the global demand for AI is so insatiable right now, there is a massive worldwide shortage of these memory chips.
So they're essentially printing money.
Pretty much. Companies like Micron and their rivals like SanDisk and Western Digital hold the physical keys to the digital future right now.
So we have these massive hardware companies trying to build the physical foundation of the future, but what happens once you actually buy that hardware?
That's where it gets messy.
Yeah, because reading through these sources, the whole concept of ownership and control is getting completely turned upside down. Take Anthropic's new AI model, Claude Opus 4.8.
Oh, this was a fascinating situation.
A developer in Taiwan ran a test where he asked the AI in Chinese, what model are you? He asked it 4 different times.
Right.
And 3 out of the 4 times, Claude claimed to be a Chinese AI model, either Qwen or DeepSeek.
It immediately sparked a massive debate online, with people pointing fingers and yelling about distillation.
Wait, what exactly is distillation again?
Distillation is a real technique where developers train a smaller, cheaper AI by basically having it copy the homework of a much larger, more expensive model.
Okay.
So people assumed Anthropic must have secretly copied Chinese models.
But the experts push back on that completely in the research. They argue that the AI is just acting like a parrot.
Right.
It learns by ingesting massive amounts of text from the internet. When you ask an AI what its name is, it doesn't possess self-awareness. It's just mathematically predicting the most likely next word based on common patterns it saw online.
Yes, exactly.
It's like a student who didn't study, panicking on a test, and just writing down a random answer they vaguely remember seeing on a flashcard once.
That flashcard analogy is spot on. These models don't have a ground truth identity. But notice the fascinating contradiction here.
What do you mean?
Well, we are building software systems so unimaginably complex that the AI itself doesn't fundamentally know what it is. Yet simultaneously, hardware manufacturers are attempting to exert absolute granular control over how we use their physical products.
Which brings us right back to that toaster analogy from earlier. Look at the Bamboo Lab situation.
The 3D printer drama.
Yeah. They are a Shenzhen-based company that makes insanely popular home 3D printers. A solo developer in Poland built a free, modified version of the software used to control these printers.
And he just shared it with the community.
Right. He shared his code openly, which, according to the software's open source license, is completely allowed. But Bamboo Lab sent him legal threats demanding he take it down.
The 3D printing community erupted over this. A prominent tech YouTuber publicly pledged $10,000 to the developer's legal defense.
Wow.
Basically daring Bamboo Lab to sue. Then the Software Freedom Conservancy stepped in, pointing out that Bamboo Lab was actually violating the very open source license their own software relies on, so Bamboo Lab eventually backed down.
I really struggle with this modern definition of ownership. If I buy a physical machine and put it in my house, why does software licensing give the manufacturer a digital leash to dictate what I can and cannot do with the hardware I bought with my own money?
Because the corporate value is no longer just in the plastic and metal of the machine. The value is in the ecosystem.
Like the App Store model.
Exactly. Companies want to lock you into their specific software environment because that's where the recurring revenue and behavioral data live. They aren't just selling you a tool anymore. They're renting you a service disguised as a product.
It feels like we are just scrambling for control. Whether it's a tech company trying to lock down a printer or humanity trying to impose order on the Wild West, we just hate uncertainty.
We really do.
Which actually brings up a massive institutional shift we're seeing in the sources. The U.S. Clarity Act just cleared a Senate committee on May 14th by a vote of 15-9.
A huge deal for the financial sector.
Yeah. Its goal is to be the first comprehensive rulebook for cryptocurrency, effectively moving it out of the legal gray zone and establishing it as a recognized financial system alongside traditional banks.
And regardless of anyone's political stance on the vote itself, as an objective institutional milestone, it's huge. For over a decade, crypto has operated in a chaotic legal limbo.
Right.
This act is a direct attempt to impose predictable, programmable rules onto a highly volatile system. We are trying to codify the unpredictable.
And we are doing the exact same thing to our own biology. Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources show that the mRNA technology we all heard about during the COVID-19 vaccines is now being aimed directly at cancer.
This is one of the most exciting medical developments in decades.
Companies like Moderna and Merck are in the final stages of testing this against melanoma.
The underlying mechanism of this treatment is profound. Doctors don't just give you a generic shot anymore.
What do?
They take a biopsy of a patient's specific tumor. They sequence its unique genetic mutations. Then they design a custom mRNA vaccine tailored solely for the biology of that one single person.
I love the way this was described in the notes. It's like handing the patient's immune system a highly specific wanted poster, complete with the genetic fingerprints of the exact cancer cells hiding in their body.
That's precisely what it is. First approvals are expected in the next year or two.
But I have a logistical question. Custom making a bespoke drug from scratch for a single person sounds incredible, but how on earth do you scale that to help millions of people?
That is the ultimate hurdle of modern medicine. We are trying to transition pharmaceuticals away from a mass manufacturing model.
Like stamping out identical pills in a factory.
Right, moving away from that and into an information processing model. The scaling doesn't come from building bigger vats of vaccine.
Okay, where does it come from?
The scaling comes from automating the biological coding pipeline. You have to build an infrastructure where taking a biopsy, sequencing the DNA, computing the unique mRNA sequence, and synthesizing the final dose can happen automatically in a matter of days.
We're getting incredibly good at trying to control the microscopic world, like programming mRNA to hunt cancer. But zooming out to the macroscopic world, we're completely losing control of our physical environment.
The contrast in today's sources is jarring.
Look at the India heat wave from late May. Northern states like Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, and Uttar Pradesh hit between 44 and 46 degrees Celsius.
Which is life-threatening.
For those listening in the States, that is 113 degrees Fahrenheit. At one point, almost all 100 of the world's hottest cities were in India alone, driven by climate change, missing pre-monsoon rains, and incredibly dry winds.
It is a staggering meteorological event. We are watching an entire, heavily populated region become fundamentally hostile to human life for extended stretches of time.
And while millions are suffering through unavoidable, deadly heat at sea level, look at what's happening at the absolute highest point on Earth. Mount Everest just had its busiest season ever in the spring of 2026.
The numbers on this are unbelievable.
Over 1,000 climbers reached the summit. Nepal issued a record 494 permits, and those cost $15,000 each.
Wow.
On May 20th alone, a record 274 climbers summited in a single day. The sheer volume of people caused literal traffic jams in the death zone, where the oxygen is so thin you can die just standing in line. And tragically, 2 people did lose their lives this year because of those delays.
The paradox here is almost difficult to process.
It's an incredible dark irony. We are literally paying $15,000 to stand in a freezing traffic jam in an unbreathable death zone for fun, while our actual hometowns are turning into literal, unavoidable danger zones of heat.
I think this perfectly aligns with the comic included in our sources today.
Oh, the gym one.
Yeah, the editor shared that yes, but comic. In the first panel, a woman is at the gym doing incredibly grueling, heavy squats, pushing her body to the absolute physical limit, groaning, sweating.
Right.
But then in the very next panel, she uses the elevator just to go up to the second floor of a building.
It perfectly captures how ridiculous we are.
It's a deeply resonant, really funny metaphor for human nature.
Yeah.
We have this intrinsic drive to conquer artificial struggles. We love loading up a barbell or paying a fortune to climb Everest.
But then what?
But when it comes to our actual day-to-day reality, we demand absolute convenience. We want alligators. We rely on fossil fuels. We seek immediate comfort, even if that widespread demand for convenience is the very thing contributing to the extreme weather, making the planet unlivable. We only want the struggle on our own terms.
We want the illusion of control. And speaking of illusions, let's transition to some scientific discoveries that actively break how our brains perceive reality.
The math and physics section.
Yeah, physicists at the University of Toronto recently confirmed a phenomenon they're calling negative time.
This is one of those quantum concepts that makes you question everything.
Seriously. The setup is they fired tiny particles of light, photons, into a cloud of chilled atoms. And when they measured how long the light lingered inside the cloud, the measurement came out as less than 0.
Less than 0.
Yeah, the sources say it was as if the light exited the cloud before it even went in. But hold on, let me play devil's advocate here. Is negative time just a brilliant PR spin by researchers to get us to pay attention to a mundane optical illusion? Critics are arguing the label oversells the reality.
Well, the critics have a valid point. I mean, you cannot build a time machine out of this. It's not literal time travel.
Right, unfortunately.
It's just quantum mechanics refusing to play by our everyday rules. Imagine a long, stretched-out parade entering a tunnel. Normally, the loudest marching band is right in the middle of the parade.
Okay.
But because of the bizarre acoustics inside the tunnel, the sound waves get distorted. The loudest noise actually echoes out the exit before the marching band even walks into the entrance.
Oh, that makes so much sense. The parade isn't traveling back in time. The shape of the noise is just being warped.
Precisely. A photon isn't a solid bullet, it's a wave packet. The atomic cloud reshapes that wave so dramatically that the peak of the wave emerges from the cloud before the mathematical center of the wave even enters.
That's wild.
It proves that at a quantum level, the straightforward causality we take for granted, like cause then effect, gets incredibly fuzzy.
Our brains just aren't built to process that. And it's not just quantum physics. Our intuition fails at everyday math, too. Consider the birthday paradox.
Oh, this is a classic.
The statistic is, if you put just 23 people in a room, there is a 50% chance that 2 of them share the exact same birthday. If you bump that room up to 70 people, it's over a 99% chance. Next time you're on a medium-sized Zoom call with 23 boxes on your screen, think about that.
It feels completely wrong, doesn't it?
Totally. There are 365 days in a year. How can 23 people give you a coin flip's chance of a match?
Because human brains are hardwired for linear thinking, but this is a problem of exponential probability. When you walk into a room of 23 people, you instinctively compare your one single birthday to the 22 other people.
Right, you think, I only have 22 chances to find someone who matches me.
Which feels mathematically tiny. But the trick is, you aren't just comparing yourself to the room.
It's like counting handshakes.
Yeah.
If everyone in that room has to shake everyone else's hand, you aren't just shaking 22 hands. Person B shakes 21 hands, person C shakes 20 hands, and so on. It creates a massive web very quickly.
Exactly. You're comparing everyone to everyone. With 23 people, that web creates 253 different possible pairs.
Oh, wow.
So when you realize you have 253 chances to find a matching date out of 365 possible days, a 50% probability suddenly makes perfect logical sense.
It really does.
But because we experience life from our own single linear perspective, exponential math will always feel like a glitch in the matrix to us.
It's wild how easily our perspective can be manipulated.
Yeah.
And if math and physics frame our reality, the artists and cultural icons are the ones who intentionally shape how we view it.
Cultural megaphones.
Exactly. Take Annie Leibovitz, one of the most famous photographers alive. She started at Rolling Stone in 1970 and later moved to Vanity Fair. But the sources highlight that her genius wasn't in taking candid snapshots. She built incredibly elaborate artificial scenes.
Like the young Leonardo DiCaprio with a live swan draped around his neck.
Or Whoopi Goldberg submerged in a bathtub full of milk.
Right. She deeply understood that art isn't always about documenting literal reality. It's about commanding attention and freezing a feeling in time. She actively staged truth to make it more emotionally impactful for the viewer.
Speaking of commanding attention, Drake just passed Michael Jackson's record. With his single, Janice STFU, Drake secured his 14th Billboard Hot 100 #1 hit.
Passing MJ's record of 13, which had stood since 1972.
Yeah, and Drake also set a record for having 42 songs on the Hot 100 in a single week. But he did that by dropping 3 massive albums in one single night.
A total flood of the market.
It feels like buying out the lottery. Does the modern streaming era make comparing his records to Michael Jackson's physical vinyl era kind of meaningless?
It is absolutely an apples to oranges comparison in terms of physical logistics. I mean, in the vinyl era, a fan had to physically drive to a store and pay $15 for an album, which was a massive barrier to entry.
Yeah, a huge commitment.
Today, a casual 30-second stream counts toward the charts. However, the underlying cultural currency remains identical, which is dominance of the public's attention.
That makes sense.
The mechanics of the Billboard charts have changed, but the monumental feat of capturing the global zeitgeist is just as potent.
And we see that power to capture the zeitgeist playing out on global stages. At the 79th Cannes Film Festival, Christian Mungiu won the Palme d'Or for Fjord, his second time winning the top prize.
A huge achievement.
But the runner-up Grand Prix went to a Russian thriller called Minotaur, directed by Andrei Zvyagintsev. During his acceptance speech, he directly addressed Vladimir Putin, urging an end to the war in Ukraine. Just reporting the events objectively here, it shows how these cultural platforms double as global megaphones.
Indeed. It demonstrates that the stage itself holds immense power to project a perspective far beyond the original artistic medium.
And sometimes the art that projects the most pure joy wins out over everything else. In gaming, there are big rumors of Astrobot 2 at the upcoming Sony State of Play on June 2nd.
The original was such a surprise hit.
It really was. The 2024 original shocked gamers by winning Game of the Year over massive, hyper-realistic, incredibly dark epics like Elden Ring and Black Myth: Wukong.
Which is a beautiful reminder of the core purpose of entertainment. It doesn't always have to be a sprawling, gritty, 100-hour epic. Astrobot proved that pure, unadulterated joy, flawlessly executed, can resonate just as deeply with audiences as the most complex narrative worlds.
That drive to be the absolute best naturally brings us to the sports world. I was looking at the sports sources, and my brain is struggling to process the extremes we are seeing right now.
Decade-long droughts are ending.
In basketball, the New York Knicks are going to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. They swept the Cavs, won 11 straight. Jalen Brunson is the MVP. They face the Spurs starting June 3rd.
It's been a long time coming for New York.
But then over in cycling, Jonas Vingegaard just won the Giro d'Italia. He attacked alone 10 kilometers out, and he's now only the 8th rider in history to win all 3 of cycling's Grand Tours.
And now eyes are on the Tour de France against Pogacar and that 19-year-old French sensation, Paul Seixas.
And on the total opposite end of the age spectrum, Cristiano Ronaldo just won the Saudi League title at 41 years old. He has 971 career goals. Not to mention Ayas Ueda over at Feyenoord winning the Dutch Golden Boot with 25 goals, only the second Asian player to do so. So what does this all mean? Are we completely throwing out the old rules of a physical prime?
They are certainly being stretched to their absolute limits. Modern sports science, hyper-specialized nutrition, and targeted recovery are allowing athletes like Ronaldo to extend their peak years far beyond what was historically possible.
That's unbelievable.
But what I find most compelling in these sports sources isn't the multi-million-dollar empires or the global superstars. It's the editor's note tucked away at the end about a pickup badminton game.
Oh, the badminton game. The editor wrote that they played men's doubles, got paired with a stranger who had limited footwork and a new grip, and they just got repeatedly beaten by bitter players.
Yes, but look at the details of what they wrote. They laughed, they clapped for good rallies, they strategized on the bench. They kept losing, but they kept a positive attitude.
Right.
They learned to complement their partner's weaknesses. And finally, at the very end, they won a single game, 21-19, and they wrote that it felt incredibly good.
They played their hearts out for a single, meaningless pickup game victory.
And that is the brilliant unifying connection here. The joy of closing that margin, the satisfaction of adapting to a teammate, and the visceral thrill of finally winning 21-19, that is the exact same psychological mechanism, the exact same human thrill that Jalen Brunson feels leading the Knicks to the finals.
Oh, yeah.
The scale is vastly different, but the human experience of striving and overcoming is beautifully universal.
I love that. From the NBA Finals to a sweaty local gym floor, the internal feeling is exactly the same. And as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to look back at history, because it shows us that our most long-lasting achievements are often born from happy accidents.
This is a great story.
Today in history, May 31st, 1859, the famous clock tower in London, Big Ben, kept time to the very first time.
And its origin story is delightfully messy.
It really is. The original bell cracked during testing, so they melded it down and recast it, and then the replacement bell cracked too.
Just terrible luck.
Yeah, so instead of starting over a third time, the engineers just turned the bell slightly so the hammer would strike an undamaged spot. That massive compromise is why Big Ben has its distinct, slightly off-pitch tone.
And the way they tune it is even better.
It's amazing. They fine-tuned this massive iconic clock using old pennies. Adding a single penny to the swinging pendulum speeds the clock up by 2/5 of a second. They literally just stack or remove pocket change to keep the time right. Oh, and the clock faces were blacked out during both world wars.
It's the ultimate duct tape solution on a grand historical scale.
It absolutely is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. From Huawei stacking microscopic transistors to bypass global trade bans, to engineers stacking old pennies on Big Ben's pendulum to keep the time, progress is clearly never perfect, but we just keep ticking forward anyway.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. We tune a 160-year-old iconic clock with literal pocket change, while in the exact same era, we are custom printing bespoke mRNA molecules to hunt down cancer cells.
Right.
Decades from now, when the advanced AI models of the year 2031 look back at our current reality, will they see our cutting-edge tech as miracles, or will they view our current struggles as just another version of us stacking pennies on a pendulum?